Hello, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be here today with just fabulous friends and peers. We are going to talk about everything personalization. So let's get personal, transforming B2B strategies to be more human. I am honored to be joined here by so many of my favorite fan favorites who know everything about account-based marketing, all things go to market. I'm going to go around the horn and have everybody introduce themselves and share what their marketing superpower is. But I'll go ahead and kick that off for us. I'm Corrina Owens. I am a Chief Evangelist Officer for Purple Cork. And my marketing superpower is being absolutely obsessed with the customer. And I will pass this over to Jen to kick us off next.
All right. Hi, everyone. Super, super pumped to be here, sharing the stage amongst all of these marketing greats. Jen Lever here. I am the director of ABM and integrated campaigns at Full Story. And my marketing superpower is they call me the sales whisperer.
Love it. Thanks, Jen. Hillary, you're up next.
Yeah, hi, I'm Hillary Carpio. I lead the account-based marketing function as well as customer growth marketing function at Snowflake. And my marketing superpower is the ability to connect dots across the organization in order to streamline go-to-market into a one-team motion.
Beautiful. Thanks, Hillary. Last but certainly not least, Nick.
Ooh, super stoked to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Nick Bennett. I am the Chief Customer Officer and co-founder of TAC, Media Network Membership Club and marketing firm that helps people grow through people first go-to-market strategies. My superpower, I would probably say, is building relationships, deep relationships, something I've always been good at. Why I was in sales before marketing. So super passionate about that.
Well, that is perfect. I think all these superpowers are well suited for this topic today. So thank you all for sharing that. We're going to just hop right into it and talk about how ABM or account-based marketing is being used to streamline go-to-market strategies today within your organization. Hillary, you recently came out with just a very insightful book around how you at Snowflake have partnered with your CRO and the sales team to really streamline all of these functions together and drive more revenue and awareness for your business. Could you talk with us a little bit about some of the strategies that you've employed that have really helped to foster those relationships and really make sure that your go-to-market efforts are not wasted?
Yeah, so the end goal to create a cohesive customer experience is to get the right message to the right people in the right accounts at the right time. Problem is that's a lot easier to strategize than it is to execute, right? In order to get sales development, sales, marketing, account-based marketing in our case, all aligned, you really have to lock in on the processes and you have to know the triggers that drive the processes. So one of our favorite plays is intent driven. When there is an abnormal surge in behavior related to the topics that we sell to, we capture that information, capture that data, and activate a whole string of plays across teams that all work together to get that right message to the right people in the right accounts at the right time. So from predictive analysis of prioritization of the accounts to getting the messaging together between sales and marketing, it all comes down to having a conversation. And it is so simple, but such an overlooked process in the sales and marketing collaboration sphere is to sit down face to face with your sales development rep, with your sales rep, with your marketer, and have the conversation. What is the data saying? Where do we want to go together? And who's going to do what when? Then as leaders, we can step back and create an infrastructure to allow the different teams to work within in order to orchestrate that at scale.
Yeah, I think there's just no such thing as over communication when it comes to getting these things out to the field internally and then externally facing with your clients and prospects. Curious, Hillary, is there anything that you've changed over the last maybe year to help like refine these strategies internally or externally facing with your clients?
Yeah, we're never done, right? Just like in any relationship, you have to continue to get better and adapt as things change. So in the last year, we've gotten more and more granular with how we enable, and we have everything from lesson lead plans for the SDRs to learn what we're working on to different metrics that we're working toward based off of alignment, how many meetings are coming out of certain accounts to show the alignment between AEs and SDRs as well as ABM as a three-legged stool. And we're also working on automation. So we have a lot of handoffs and there's a lot of drops that can happen in manual handoffs, a lot of confusion that can happen. So we're working on automating when trigger A happens. How do we collect the right contacts related to the right personas and get them into the right sequence and launch the right ABM campaign at the same time and save as much human effort as we can for human only things like conversations and take a lot of that manual lift on the operational side and try to automate it using different tools.
That's great. And I love the scale effort that you guys have been able to achieve to tackle all of the human relationships and awareness about what is ABM and how's that fit in a go-to-market motion, and then scaling it through technology. Nick, I know that you've recently launched a new consulting firm, and you probably are interfacing with so many different companies now that are faced with how do they scale ABM across their go-to-market function. Is there any tips or strategies that you would share to people that are either looking to scale or maybe just start out based on what you've been seeing in the market today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually helping a few companies build their ABM strategy from scratch, and a few that aren't even in tech. And it's so interesting to kind of see. But I mean, kind of like Hillary said, it comes back to like having those conversations and making sure there's alignment across the entire organization. Like, you'd be surprised at how many people don't have conversations and how siloed it actually is. Even knowing you say there's no silos, the silos within every organization, whether they're big or small. But it's aligning on the right KPIs, the right OKRs, that the right outcomes that ultimately you're looking to achieve as a revenue team, I think is the big thing. And again, it's that communication. You have to have regular calls. You have to have regular cadences with the sales team, SDRs, CS, all those different things, the leaders within those organizations. It can't be just one company or one function within marketing doing its thing.
Amen to that. And speaking of just communicating, not only the program, but the success of those programs. Jen, I wanted to ask you, I know you've deployed in many ABM strategies, both in consulting environments, agencies, and also now, of course, for Full Story. What are some KPIs that you're currently using to measure the success of your ABM campaigns? And what would you advise to others who are maybe looking to build KPI frameworks for the first time?
Yeah, I would say when we think about KPIs, first and foremost, like table stakes is going to be making sure that you level set expectations for all of the key stakeholders that are going to be involved in that program, right? It's one thing if marketing is looking at one set of KPIs, but then you also need to understand and tailor KPIs to the other audiences that you're going to be reporting out those success metrics to. So what does sales need to see? Your sales reps, your boots on the ground versus sales leadership. Same thing with CX. Same thing with our product teams. So again, that level set in terms of expectations for those different audiences needs to be set. The way that I like to look at KPIs, I like to back into it through two different lenses. Because a lot of times when people first kick off an ABM program, they expect results to happen the next day, right? And ABM is definitely more of a marathon than a sprint. All of us on this call know that, right? It takes time to build that go-to-market motion and create that alignment. So what I really like to do is look at those early KPIs first. So out of those target accounts that we're targeting, how are we starting to see reach and engagement? Are we getting in front of the right folks, the right stakeholders on the prospect or the account side to indicate, hey, our message is resonating, our content is resonating, and we're able to move those accounts through the buying cycle. So that reach metric is huge. Engagement as well. So it's one thing if we're getting our ads in front of the right eyeballs, but are they engaging back? Are we sending up compelling messaging, compelling CTAs, compelling offers to get them to engage with either our marketing materials or our sales team ultimately? And then looking at the content as well that they're engaging with. So do we get to see that, ebooks or research guides or white papers are resonating more with the C-suite, and blog content is resonating more with our end users that, gets them a little bit more into the day-to-day weeds with the product that we're trying to sell. So I think really understanding the content that resonates with your audience also is another great way, early indicator KPI to understand the success of those programs. Then, of course, you want to start to look at, okay, great, we're seeing engagement, we're seeing reach, we're seeing folks engage with the right content, moving through those different buying stages, but how is that turning into meetings with our sales team? How are we enabling our sales team to outbound at the right moment with the right level of personalization for those accounts? And then ultimately, how are those meetings turning into created and qualified opportunities and ultimately close won revenue, right? Once they hit that sales cycle, then we want to start to double down on deal velocity, win rate percentages, deal sizes, right? Those larger business outcomes that we're all trying to strive for. So I think it's really important to look at both sides of the coin so you can celebrate those early milestones and show that success, knowing that it is a long-term game. And then when you start to see those business outcomes, really leaning into that when you start to report out to the wider organization around the success of those programs.
Thank you. Yeah, that's super helpful context. What have you found from a personalization perspective? Because I think that that's often what many of us probably get asked about when we have different engagements or when we're talking to different clients is how can you tell that the fruits of ABM is so much different than just general demand generation, demand capture? And it really comes down to that personalization, making sure you're being really thoughtful, Hillary, to your point about when you're reaching out. And then, of course, to everybody's point here, like, what are you saying when you reach out? How have you successfully showed to leadership that your personalization efforts are meaningful, Jen, and that they actually do help to provide a higher lift in conversion?
Yep, great question. So one thing is leaning into the data, right? Nowadays, as marketers, we have access to so much more from a data perspective than we ever did before, right? We can see intent data, we can see engagement data. So using that to help fuel that message that you're putting in market, and then testing to see how well that resonates with your audience. That's one piece of it. The other thing that I would say is 9 times out of 10, whenever we launch an ABM program, we almost always launch it with a control group, right? So we have one group of accounts that are getting that very tailored, personalized experience throughout the entire buying cycle. Then we have another group that might be in a broader bucket of demand gen that's just getting more generalized messaging overall. And you can see that the needle is definitely moving in the right direction when you do that just kind of double click down into leaning into the intent that you see those accounts spiking on, leaning into those engagement metrics that you can see across how they're engaging with your marketing, your other marketing programs that are touch points within that campaign. And that lift is pretty clear, especially when you have that control group established.
I want to underline, highlight that completely. I think that's a big miss that so many folks don't actually implement, is having a control group that looks a lot like who your target accounts are. It really helps to just cut the noise and cut any confusion about whether or not that's successful. So that's a really great point. Thank you for sharing that. I want us to kind of segues a little bit into Gen AI and just AI in general, right? Obviously, that's a hot topic for marketers today. How are we actually using that to really enhance our personalization efforts and things like our content, right? To make it really meaningful and agile for these teams. Hillary, I'm wondering if you have any recent examples or campaigns that you've done that have actually leveraged AI to help streamline either the process of getting something internally done or externally, like the final facing campaign, if you will.
Yeah, we are in the process of implementing AI into different parts of our personalization journey and part of our orchestration journey. We're still on that path. So a lot of what we're doing is on the account research side and using different AI tools to help us understand more about the account, publicly available information. Obviously, we have to be sensitive to the security risks that do come along with using Gen AI, as should everybody. So don't put anything that you would regret into that LLM. But we have been using machine learning models for quite some time, right? We enable AI and ML within our product. So we have algorithms that we do use for predictive scoring. All of that's brought in-house here at Snowflake on the ABM side. And then we have it on the prediction side, and then I forgot my other point, so I'm going to have to start that over. So account prediction is primarily where we use AI and ML today.
Love it. And yeah, no surprise that Snowflake is just ahead of the curve on that. So thank you so much for sharing that. You brought up a great point, which is that we have to be super sensitive still. Obviously, these machines and these tools, they're still learning, and the input greatly matters. So I would love to know, Nick, if you could share with us, just in your own experience, what have you found to be some limitations or challenges or just things like Hillary's point to be aware of when kind of working with these solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is you need to train it to get what you want out of it. There's so many AI. I was recently at a conference, and I would say half the sessions were about AI. It was mind blowing. But it's only as good as the information you put into it. They're never gonna like just know who you are. Now, 7 years down the road, it's going to be mind blowing, I'm sure. But where we are in present day, I think it's still takes a lot to train it to get what you want out of it. The research part was really interesting. And I've been recently talking to a few people who have been putting specific company information into these AI models, which has gotten them fired from these companies because everyone that, it's basically it's public knowledge. Within that point, it became a bigger issue. So you have to be able to train it. You have to be able to understand the right prompts that you want to get out of it, to be able to kind of prioritize everything. I think it's important to know that, like, using AI with ABM, like ABM is not a magic bullet. It's a priority sales framework. And I think it's the responsibility of the marketers and all of us to make sure that we're setting them up for success. And I think that involves like the AI piece of it. It's like we can do or hold their hand to a certain extent, but it's like we still need to train them to get the personalization out of it. And like there's a human component behind that. Like you can't just ship what comes from AI and like expect everything else to be amazing. Like there still needs to be that human component that takes personalization to the next level from that.
100%. And definitely agree with that. Jen, I know you've been doing a lot of work too with AI. What have been some things that have been really successful for you as far as like campaigns, tactics, or prompts when it comes to amplifying your messaging or getting your message to those right accounts?
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of different experiments with AI across our marketing team. One of the most recent ones that I've been really leaning into is using AI to help craft sales follow-up cadences or sales outbound cadences based on personas, based on industry. Again, to Nick and Hillary's point, AI is only as strong as the human behind it right now, right? So it's a great way to get some of that starter copy to help formulate the rest of what that cadence might look like. So you're not starting with a blank piece of paper, but again, take it as with a grain of salt, and you're definitely going to need to tweak it and refine it to make sure that it makes sense for your business and the message that you're trying to get across to those key personas. But it has really helped us spin out sales cadences at a much faster scale than we've been able to do previously, right? Another thing that we've been using it for is to test ad copy, help us draft alternative ways to present our messaging within our ad copy and kind of A/B test that to see which one would resonate more with our audience. Again, helps us scale that ad copy production piece. So definitely more on the content and messaging side for us right now. And then to Hillary's point, we will lean pretty heavily into using AI machine learning to identify accounts where they are in their buying stage, serve that insight up to sales, and then help sales activate on that from an outbound and prioritization standpoint.
I love that you guys have shared so many different ways that any marketer or sales professional today can use AI to really ramp up and warm up their accounts, but also how to think about scaling that as well and really making sure it's super personalized and relevant to their audience. I want to close this out here with maybe a little bit more of a fun question and more personal questions as we're on the theme of personalization. So Nick, I'm going to throw this last one to you. What's been the last personalized campaign outreach that you've received personally of somebody trying to get your attention to your business that just really stood out and like really hit the mark for you?
Do you really want to know the answer? Because it's not good.
I do. I do.
So I can tell you. So I was most recently at a company, Air Meet, and when I started there, I was there. Must have got like 300 cold emails, between cold emails, DMs, cold calls on that. Out of those 300, you want to know how many of them were personalized? Zero. And I give a lot of information. Like you would think someone could just look at my LinkedIn profile and just personalize it even a little bit, but people are just so like happy with like copy and paste cadences that marketers can see through a mile away. Now, about a couple of years ago, I did get one cold email from this company, and he pulled specific content from my LinkedIn, tied it back to a value driven thing, didn't ask any CTA, just wanted to say, hey, I appreciate the content. A week and a half later, I signed a $30,000 deal with him because of like, ultimately, I was like, wow, this is actually something I need. He wasn't pushy, drove a ton of value, and showed me exactly how I was going to deliver that value, make me look good at the end of the day, too.
There you go. I think that's the mic drop moment. Give before you focus on what your get is, team. So everybody, that wraps us up here. Thank you all so much for taking the time to share such valuable insights. We all can be reached on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to myself or any of the panelists here today to just talk more and connect and learn more with one another. But thank you all for stopping by our session, and thank you to our lovely speakers today. We appreciate you.